Okay. Hi, my name is Nathan. I go by Peteparker, and every week I do comic book reviews because that's the rule around my house. If I want to keep buying them, I got to review them online. So this review is going to be about Flashpoint number 2 right here. This is written by Jeff Johns and penciled by Andy Kubert, or Kubert, I don't know for sure. And right off the bat, look, it's not a Marvel title, and it's not The Walking Dead, so what am I doing, right? Why am I reviewing a DC book for a change? Well, I've been wanting to get onto DC and find out about the books that I've not been reading. There's obviously good creators over there just as well as anywhere else, and I was looking for some kind of in to kind of open myself up to all those characters. I generally know who all the characters are and what their general origins are, and I kind of keep up with what's going on in the DCU in general, but for the most part I don't know any of the smaller characters. I haven't read very many, if any, of the most famous runs that happen in DC, and so I figured casually I would look through Flashpoint 1, which didn't seem all that interesting. And I actually talked to my comic book store people and asked them where they recommended I start picking up with DC. What's a good book to go ahead and start with? And they actually told me that Flashpoint is not a good series for that because you have alternate reality versions, even though it's the real reality, of all the major heroes. So if you don't know who they typically are in the real universe, then you're not really going to get the subtleties of the Flashpoint universe. So I did not pick up the first one. I flipped through the back and saw the spoiler that the Batman of Flashpoint universe is Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, and not Bruce Wayne. And that was vaguely interesting for half a second, but I don't know who Thomas Wayne really is and what that really means. I mean, aside from what the movies have told me and the general story of Batman has told me in general, who cares who Thomas Wayne is, right? But this one, you know, I picked it up, and there's a lot of really interesting story in here. So we'll go through it a little bit. Basically, if you don't know what Flashpoint is the Flash awakens somehow, and the whole world is changed. It's very different than the world that he knows, and basically he's trying to figure out how it has been changed, and he has some theories in this book as far as how that happened, and how to change it back. He doesn't seem to have his powers, nobody knows who he is, and everybody else is different. There's no Superman, Batman is Thomas Wayne, Aquaman and Wonder Woman are fighting over land or ocean, I suppose. So everything's a little bit off. And in the beginning of this we have Deathstroke, I believe, who's captain of a pirate ship, going on his pirate runs looking for things to salvage in Europe, which has been flooded by the Atlanteans, and they find themselves in Paris. Here's Paris underwater. There's the Eiffel Tower, and find themselves in trouble because there's a lot of crashed ships around there, and lo and behold, Aquaman jumps out of the water with Ocean Master, who apparently they're buddies in this, at least in this reality. And they seem to kill everybody, so that's cool. But then you flash to Gotham City in the Batcave with Thomas Wayne and Barry Allen, the Flash, and they talk everything out. This was the perfect book to really read if you're not reading DC and jump in, because they basically tell you who everybody is and why that's weird and stuff like that. So I think it's this book in general is a really good blend of stuff for people who've been reading a long time and stuff for people who don't know or care, kind of, who these characters are. And I really found like the dialogue between Flash and Batman, I guess, to be really interesting. You got a lot of retrospective talk from Barry Allen talking about who Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash, is and what it means for him to be in this universe. And I really got interested. I felt a little bit that the Batman of this universe seems to be, I don't know, a little helpful, I guess. So in the very beginning, Flash shows up in the Batcave or whatever, and he's all pissed off that he's in there. Batman's pissed off that Flash is in there, and he breaks one of his fingers, which kind of Flash shrugs off. Apparently, it doesn't really matter if your finger's broken. It hurt at first, but then it was quickly over. And then after that, after some dialogue about how Bruce Wayne is alive in the real reality, Thomas Wayne is all on board to change this reality back to what it is. And they go about doing that by trying to get Flash his powers, because he didn't have his powers here. But it seems to backfire, and I won't show you that ultimate picture because it's really awesome what had happened to him. But they tried to recreate the experiment that turned him into the Flash, and it didn't look like it worked. Maybe it did. Who knows? You also have a little bit of Wonder Woman in here. She's attacking this guy who's trying to go in there and find Lois Lane in Britain, I guess, which I guess is Paradise Island. So you got a little bit of her look and what she goes for, but they didn't make it known whether or not Steve Trevor, who's the guy looking for Lois Lane, if he was killed or not by her. So I don't know how violent she is. I'll tell you one thing that really weirded me out is I didn't catch it, and maybe I'm just stupid. That's a good possibility, right? But they did this big Super 8 insert right in the middle of the book where you basically get almost, it's like a whole comic book about this Super 8 movie that's coming out, and it's like a full, almost maybe 10-page, 5-page comic book right in the middle, and it's totally differently drawn and differently written. But I didn't get that wasn't part of the story, so I kind of jumped from there to here and started reading. I'm like, oh, this is a flashback about guys in the military. Well, long ago, they're going to tell some more story about the Flashpoint universe history back in the day. But that's not what it is. It turns out that's just an insert of this other comic book that I didn't understand at first and don't really care about. I mean, I don't know how anybody else feels about that whole Super 8 movie, but I was really happy about the first time I saw the preview, excited to go see the movie this summer, and then the fourth time I saw that same preview, I was totally sick of it. And now I don't even really want to see it in the theater. I feel like they're shoving it down everybody's throats. So that was another bad part of the middle of this. I don't often see Marvel putting a comic book insert, a section of another comic book in the middle of their book. They often do it at the end of the book, and maybe there's a price difference there. Maybe it's cheaper to put it in the middle. So that really threw me off as far as reading the story goes. But overall, I really like this a lot, and I can imagine that I will like the entire event. Now, I wouldn't go as far as buying all the other stories that connect with the main event, but I definitely am feeling like even in this one issue of the second issue in the series, I'm enjoying this event much more than Fear itself. Now, that's not a very good sign, right? That means that this is big and cool and the other one is okay, right? But check out my other review on Fear itself. Issue 3, I think, came out this week. In a little bit it'll be up, and you can see what my true feelings are about that one. But in the end, this thing is really, really cool. I don't know the characters all that well. I don't know DC all that well, and I found this whole thing to be interesting, and not only that, but beautiful. This nice, high, glossy cover. The colors are beautiful. The art is beautiful. I don't know what else to say about it. It's interesting. If you know anything at all about the characters, you can follow it, and that's great. That's all you need. So I think as long as issue 3 is similar to issue 2, which I'll probably be flipping through a little bit, but I'll probably be picking up all of the rest of this run from DC just to understand what Flashpoint is doing. And I understand it also has a bunch of tie-ins, a bunch of other things that are going to be happening after Flashpoint to the DC Universe, so we'll see how that goes. So there you go. I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. You know, I would give it a 5 out of 5, but I just don't know it well enough, don't know DC Comics well enough to really say that it is outstanding among DC Comics. As a regular comic, it was great. I really enjoyed it. That's all you need, right? It's beautiful. 4 out of 5. Solid right there. Check out my other reviews. I'll put that right there. At Spidey207 on YouTube or Peteparker or anywhere else. And thanks for listening. I'll talk to you later.